Welcome, everybody, to episode 5 of the EUphoria podcast, where it's the podcast about all things Europe. We're going to be doing overhyped, underrated players. We're going to be talking about the EU LCS Power Rankings. We're going to be doing a state of the league. We're going to do some quick fire predictions, and our topics of the day are Fnatic and a special focus on our guest, Rekkles. I'm your host, Daniel Drakos, joined by Martin Deficio, and of course, our special guest, Rekkles. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So I'm glad you're here. You know, you're kind of a big deal in Europe, I think some people might say.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
I don't know, because I feel
I thought
like
you meant me.
No, not you.
Oh.
It feels weird to look another dude in the eye and be like, you're a really, really big deal. But I've done that with you
You're
before.
big. That's what he's trying to say.
You're huge. All right, so let's talk a little bit about like what's going on with you in your life. I think for me, with tattoos are cool. Let's talk a little bit about the tattoos. I think a lot of people know the story. Some people may not. But what was the inspiration for the tattoos? What's the deal with you now being an official hipster, all tatted up?
So I've always wanted to get tattoos, like for a really, really long time. And my mom always said no, so I was kind of just holding back on it until she would say yes. I didn't really have too much hopes, though. I thought even with the years, she would just always say no. Because no one in my family has any, like even my grandparents and stuff have no tattoos. So I would be like the first one in all generations of the Larsens. So
The rebel.
I actually had no expectations of it, but then randomly last year she gave me the good to go. So I created some plans and I read up on some stuff that I found inspiring, and then I just went for it.
You went for it. I mean, I like it.
We got to talk about what's on the different
So
arms.
you have on one arm Rekkles.
Yeah.
Which I love because it's like you're so famous already. I think people know. So what was was this just like a reminder?
It was mainly for myself. Like
Yeah.
when I'm older, I know that it's gonna be a big memory for me. I mean, it's
cool when
already
Yeah. So like no matter
a third
what
of my life, you know.
Yeah.
So when I'm done playing, it's probably gonna be maybe even half of it. So it's gonna be nice to have that memory around.
And the other one I know has something to do with your family, but I forget the specifics.
It's the initials of each family member. My mom, both sisters, and my father, including myself.
All right.
So it's it
So
all has
there's
a
a
meaning,
fish
but
and there's a dragon.
Yes.
yeah.
Which I mean, classic. I think super good choice for tattoos, especially for half sleeves.
But this is where we need a camera, Drake, because it's actually unacceptable.
We need to
don't have a
that
camera.
we can't. And he's also wearing a long sleeve shirt, so it's hard for me to
Well,
verbally
he's actually
describe.
shirtless at the moment,
He's
but you guys
actually
can't see
completely
that.
naked. We're
Yeah.
all completely naked.
That's how we record the podcast.
That's why we're actually not bringing in video yet, is because we don't know how to do this with pants on. It's too hard. But I'm curious, are you hooked? Because I mean, the thing I experience with tattoos, I think a lot of people do, is that like they just want to keep getting more tattoos. So are you planning more? Are you going to be like fully tatted by the end of 2019?
Nah, probably not. But I have some more ideas. I was just scared to go too far really fast.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to get a couple and then see how it felt, and maybe I have some different ideas on what I would like to do next time, and just not do everything at once and then regret it for the rest of my life,
and-
right?
I need to know one of those ideas. Give us an example. What could happen?
So I would like to get a separated yin-yang, actually, like one on each arm, because I think without my background, I would never have been able to become what I am now. Like I would never have been able to become Rekkles if I wasn't as hardworking as my family has taught me to be.
All right.
No giant Deficio face.
Yeah. Okay.
Anywhere.
Maybe I'm
I
just
mean,
gonna save that for later.
All right.
My favorite thing is like everyone's first tattoo is like usually really meaningful, right? It's like, you know, you have family and you have like this part of your life. I have one that's about family as well. And then after that, it just like goes to shit. Like my first one was like really serious. My second one is like Legend of Zelda stuff. My third one is like, all right, I already got some Legend of Zelda stuff. Let's just slap another tattoo on. Like it looks cool, I guess. I love it.
I'm missing a tattoo, man. I need people to tell me what I should get tattooed. I have nothing.
All you're gonna get is people referencing Quickshots' face, I think.
What Zelda tattoo do you have?
I have Majora's Mask on my chest.
He's
Oh
actually
my
taking his
God.
shirt off now.
Yeah,
No
I am
joke.
actually, and I have a Sheikah eye on my right arm as
That's
a half
insane.
sleeve, and I want Dark Souls tattoos. But it's addicting, but it's also impossible to find like an artist who you're. I can't find an artist to commit to like a full arm tattoo. I'm terrified someone's gonna mess it up. So,
I got nothing to add here.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Favorite game? The Majora's Mask?
Majora's Mask, yes. Although I think there's definitely strong arguments for it to not be number one out of all the Zelda games. Which Martin does not. This Martin, there's two of you now. This is actually going to be very difficult
true.
because I normally call
I play
you
them, most of them at least.
I love them. I enjoy them. They're a big part of my childhood, so that's my logic. Plus, I think masks are dope, so that's really the reason. Is I just really think masks are cool. But enough about tattoos and Legend of Zelda. We're here to talk about League of Legends. So let's do it. Let's get into it. Our first segment is Overhyped Underrated. This week we are doing players, so everyone is going to be picking either an overhyped or an underrated player and talking about them. Now, I'm going to go first this week.
This every week.
Every week. Well,
It's
to be
actually
fair,
every
I
week.
wrote the order on the
I know, and
on
it's
our
the
little
same
structure,
order every
and I'm
time.
too lazy to swap it. Do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
All
But
right.
let me guess, you're going to suggest Rekkles goes next,
Yes.
and then I go last.
I mean, that's because you can see the format in front of you, so thank you for
yes,
spoiling
and we've done
it.
this every week.
All right, so my player, I'm going to say Overhyped, and I'm going to say Gilius. I think, I honestly, I think that he talks a lot, and that's not my issue, is that he talks too much and brings himself up too much. It's just specifically this last week I was really disappointed, and also in those really clutch moments where he needs to basically secure a Baron, I think he's failed his team way too many times. And I think after week 5, or week 4 rather, coming into week 5, I saw a bunch of the same level 2 ganks over and over again. And I mean, to be fair, we also saw Brox on Fnatic doing a lot of these level 2 ganks, but I didn't see any more innovation from him. I don't see this guy constantly trying to push the envelope or do something. I think Amazing was right on our show in that this guy knows where he needs to be and knows what lane he needs to snowball, but I think level 2 ganks are not enough. I think you need to be clutch in those situations where your team needs to steal a Baron, and I think outside of snowballing his lanes, now somewhat inconsistently, I haven't really seen much else from Gilius.
Interesting. I actually disagree. I don't think he's overhyped. I think a lot of the things you're highlighting there are team issues more than Gilius individual issues. To me, if you're starting a 5-man Baron and the enemy team is not in a position to contest it other than a jungler randomly dashing over a wall on a Sejuani, like it happened in the Rocket game when he lost 2 Barons to Memento, your team is doing something completely wrong. You should be able to deny the jungler from even getting into the Baron pit in the first place. And once the jungler is in there, if it is truly a 50-50 smite, it sometimes just comes down to luck. Who just hits smite at the 700
and my
HP
issue
moment.
is less that, right? 'Cause I understand. And I think a lot of junglers have in the past said that there's kind of an advantage to the person who's coming in to steal, because you don't know 100% when they're coming in to steal, outside of a perfectly coordinated team bursting it down, right? But why are they making that call in the first place then? Why are they putting themselves in that risk?
But because I think normally you are able to deny the enemy jungler from getting into the Baron pit, and then the call would have been great. We've seen that multiple times. I think even Fnatic have shown that you can start a 5-man Baron with the enemy jungler around as long as you don't unless he legit has to flash and drag his dead body into the pit.
Anyone else who has CC that could have stopped someone from entering the pit's fault, not Gilius' fault for missing the smite.
I think the smite thing is always tricky for me to blame the jungler for, because I think a lot of times, unless the guy legit just is super slow or smites at the completely wrong time, which could happen, but a lot of times it comes down to a fraction of a second of just hitting smite first. The other one, well, I do agree he sucked with these ganks in week 5. I think the problem that he's actually getting into now is, one, they played against Galio twice. I'm sure, Rekkles, did you watch the games Vitality played this week?
A bit, yeah, but they were quite over early. So.
Yeah, exactly. They were pretty over fairly quickly. So they can't play against Galio for shit. That's already shown, because they can't snowball mid effectively against it. And then they're we gotta do something early game because we have Vitality, right? We gotta make some plays here.
That's what they think to themselves.
And then he's I'm gonna go bot lane against a Galio with ult and TP, and he's yeah, that's not gonna happen. And he did go too aggressive on those ganks, but I think the team was just lacking everything. It wasn't just Gilius. The bot lane was trying to win the lane as hard as they could, but it wasn't hard enough, and they didn't even get the bot lane turret. And I don't know. I think there's a bunch of team issues.
There's a lot of team issues, is what you're crediting it to.
I want to hear
Rekkles, what is your
opinion
opinion on Gilius? How do you feel about this guy as a jungler?
So first I wanted to address the stuff you said about the team. I think week 5 was not only the week that they were struggling as a team. I think they've always kind of struggled as a team. I've never really seen them as a really good macro team or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've won most of their games by individual outplays, especially from their mid-top jungle. So I was not really surprised when they were getting outplayed on a team base, and I wouldn't really blame Gilius for that either. I think he's put in a really tough position where he has to kind of make all the plays or nothing happens. And like as you said, like when enemy has Galio, you can't really do it through mid, and that's been the way to go for them. So I wouldn't really blame him. I would maybe consider like blaming the draft if anything, but that's up for grabs now in week 6 if they can fix that or not.
So Yamato Cannon overhyped. That's what we're saying here.
You called him the best coach ever?
I had, to be fair, I had a gun to my head.
I just find it weird that like the outside can so easily see that the way Vitality win games is through mid and then roaming to top, but themselves can't see that and they're instead drafting for other things.
Too close, man.
Yeah.
Too close to it.
So
So
I agree.
who is your overhyped, underrated player, Rekkles?
So for Overhyped, I actually chose Mini Truex, which makes it kind of awkward now that you already chose Vilnius.
Double
Okay, so
Like how are they even
talk
winning
about-
games with all these overhyped players?
Sorry.
But basically, I think that most of the games that they've won hasn't been because of him, and he's been getting a lot of. I mean, I don't read too much what has been said, but I know that he's been getting a lot of good stuff said about him, and I know there's been talks about him being like much better as a rookie than Upset, which I don't disagree with. I think Upset has been really disappointing.
Bam, big punches already. This is going to be a good episode.
But the thing with Mini Truex, which frustrates me the most, is that he's actually really good in solo queue when I play against him. He actually plays a lot of solo queue, I think, together with Jack Trolls. And whenever we go up against each other, it's actually like really good for me. I feel like I'm improving a lot actually when I'm playing against them. So when I see them in LCS, I just feel really disappointed. And I know he can do so much more.
Do you want to see them win lane harder? Is it team fighting? Is it everything?
I guess lane hasn't really ever been a strength for them. I don't think they're like too good in lane either in solo queue, but like later on in the game, they're usually carrying just as two. They're always walking around the map and playing team fights really well. So I just feel a bit disappointed when they're playing LCS without them, you know. I think maybe that's a team issue actually, and maybe it's not their fault, but it's just weird to see them trying to win games without their bot lane when their bot lane is actually better than they're supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, I mean, definitely the main win condition has been get Jizuke as fed as possible.
Yeah.
And then use Jizuke to snowball, you know, either Kabu shot or Jizuke himself goes to the side lane, and then you have to deal with his Rise running around. That's super obnoxious.
Yeah, we tried that.
Yeah, you guys tried that, you know, and it's like Jizuke. I think Jizuke is really, really good at like playing that super obnoxious split pushing type where he's not afraid of making plays. But it has meant that it feels like Mini Truepex's main role has been sit mid and wave clear.
And that's why he picked up the likes of Sigs and stuff. It's just been unfair for the guy, which is why I think he's overhyped, because he's getting a lot of credit for nothing really. But I think also the credit could be justified if he got more chance to maybe like prove himself if they played around him. I'm not really sure. But maybe they're just too deep into it now. Like we're 10 games in, right? And we're almost reaching playoffs now. So them changing everything up is probably not going to happen. And he's probably going to remain the wave clear guy in Vitality.
And I mean, he hasn't played a Tristana game, he hasn't played a Kog'Maw game, he's played Caitlyn 4 times, and he's done well, admittedly. Varus, Ezreal, he's had the Kalista game, which went pretty horrible for them.
And funny enough, the Ezreal game, one of them when they played Ezreal, it was a horrible pick that actually cost them a lot in the draft.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see, because I feel like they just pick him to be a pressure point, right, in lane. That's what I see from the Varus.
But the thing
and
is that I'm not, though. Like when we laned them, it was I think it was Tristana Janna versus Braum Caitlyn or something like that, and that shouldn't be laneable for us. But we were up like all the pressure, and we're taking their tower 2v2 if I'm not mistaken. So it just doesn't feel like they're even trying to win lane. You know, it's kind of the old school steel back where you just sit at your tower and you wait for something to happen. Which is fine in a team like Vitality.
Also the modern day
Steelback. There were a couple really good weeks for Steelback this season, but he is definitely going back to the old school Steelback.
Yeah, he's staying true to his name at the moment. All right, I think that's interesting. I think actually Mini Truex. Do you think he could be like a top 3 AD carry in Europe?
Yeah, that's why I think the credit is unjustified, but it could be.
Yeah.
And I would just like to see him do more, maybe be more vocal. I'm not sure exactly how their shot calling and stuff is going, but for sure, like I see signs of him being a much better player than he is in LCS in our solo games.
I like that.
All right, Deficio, it's time. Other Martin.
Yeah. So I've always done overhype. Now you guys have done 2 overhypes. So
I get to do my
Oh, do you also want to
underrated
do an
as well.
underrated? So normally we only do one each. But
okay.
do
Yeah,
you
if
want to do an
If you
underrated?
want to do another one.
You can do a
No,
quick
I'll-
underrated. Go
You
for
can do
it.
yours. It's fine.
All right, I'll do my underrated
Yeah.
first then. I'm saying Exile is underrated. And
Okay.
so last split in the first few weeks, it was bad. Like, it was not great. But Unicorns after Cold was on this podcast, he left this room and he learned something. We didn't tell him, but I think he just realized during the podcast when we were discussing the weaknesses of Exile. He learned that if you have a player who always wants to play on the edge, who wants to constantly try and create advantages for himself and his team, you can't leave him alone in mid. Because if you do that, just like what Fnatic has experienced a few times with Caps,
With Caps, yeah.
people will gank him and kill him 3 million times, and then mid lane lost and you can't do much. So what Cold is doing now is he's literally hard camping mid every single game he plays, which makes it impossible for Exile to fall behind, at least not a lot, in the laning phase. And I think Exile, outside of laning phase, is actually good. I think he has this kind of Jizuke thing where he's not afraid of going into a side lane and trying to be the one who can assert pressure and really try and make a play, especially if he's not behind. He will also do it if behind, and then it kind of backfires, but that's fine. Also, team fighting wise, as long as he doesn't get caught at the start of the engage, which he's gotten a lot better at now, that guy deals some serious damage, and you can always rely on Exile to actually use the advantage he's been giving from his team to go ham and do something with it. Unicorns of Love will win games when Exile does not lose early game, and he can actually get to play the map late game and team fights. So I think right now with the new strategy, and with Cold kind of putting him on a tiny leash and saying, all right, hold off. Don't be under the turret at level 2. I think Exile is underrated, and he's better than people give him credit for.
I mean, yeah, because people think he hard ints every game. So yes, in that sense, he's underrated. But I don't know, man. I have not seen enough improvement for this guy to be impressed yet. It is getting better. I'll give you that. Hard camping in mid lane, putting Cold on a leash, I think is the more accurate description because Cold has to live mid
Put
lane.
each other on a leash. You know, it's
but
whatever.
I mean, I see the potential. I remember the glory days of Exile when the most recent Rise rework came through, and he was awesome. I also remember that he got 3 banned in his finals performance and then was useless. So I still think that this guy has so much further to go. But I will agree in the sense that you can call him underrated.
Thank you, Drake.
But only because he's rated so low down.
Actually, I agree. I saw his Soy game last week, so I'm down for that underrated Exile.
See, that was a good game.
Yeah, he was really carrying that game alone. So
The guy goes ham, man.
When he does good, he does good.
Just
but
don't allow him to be alone in lane.
it's like
ever.
he has to die like 12 times in one game to carry in another. That's what it feels like to
I
me.
guess maybe they made a deal with the devil.
Yeah, and that's the
saying,
pact.
like,
You
either
can be
get-
good only every other game of League of Legends.
There you go. But if that's enough to get Unicorns of Love to pick up, they need a lot of wins if they're gonna make playoffs.
they're not gonna make it.
No, that's too rough. I guess they're too far down right now. But if they can at least pick up a bunch of wins towards the end, I think they could go into some of it with the same lineup.
I agree. I think we'll see how the rest of the lineup performs, but I think that given the path of improvement Exile is on, I don't think it would make sense for Unicorns of Love to get rid of
You
him.
could have said Path of Exile and you did.
Yeah, I didn't. I missed out. All right, our next topic is about one of the perennial European LCS teams. It is Fnatic.
G2 Esports.
No. We did that.
Glad to know
Keep it
who
together.
you're rooting for.
Caster bias cannot come out here. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Fnatic roster. I think things are starting to look better. And I'm curious from your perspective, Rekkles, how do you feel like this roster compares to last year's roster now that you guys are on an upward path and starting to be a top team in the league again?
So I think support-wise, it's better for me, but maybe a little bit worse for the team. I think me and Healy are much better in lane than me and Yesis were. Like, we're actually getting leads in pretty much every game. I think the only game where we struggled was the game against Misfits, where we were getting actually completely smashed 2v2. And we were having like no pressure at all with Syra Khan versus Kog Braum, which is debatable. I think you could be winning that lane. But they were playing really well, buying a lot of pinks and contesting our tribe rush pretty much in every base. So we were stuck under our tower, and we eventually lost like all of the pressure and got back later on, which is when it was too late and Kog'Maw just ended up carrying. But other than that game, I think we've been doing really well 2v2, and a lot of that has to go to Hylissang because he's actually like the defining factor in our laning phase, I would say, and he makes pretty much every play and does like the wave management really well, and I don't really have to do anything other than follow up and play aggressive whenever the timing is good.
That's actually interesting because I feel like last year with Jessis, you guys made it a plan for the team that Broxah would play around the bottom side later.
I think that was mostly because of our picks, though. We kind of got to a point with the whole Ken and Camille thing where if we were not ganking bot, we would lose our tower 2v2, which is something you could see at Rift Rivals. So,
and that's changed now completely.
Yeah, I mean, now we play completely standard meta picks, and we don't really need our jungler. I actually feel like we're sometimes even better off when we don't have our jungler there, because when we get our jungler bot and our top laner dies, it feels really bad. So I would rather just have our top laner help out. Our jungler help out our top laner and play the game out 2v2 or maybe 2v3, which happened a couple of times. But most of the time I was able to save Hyli, so
I mean,
fine.
And generally that actually seems to be a really good thing where what happened before was like Broxah would go top in the early game for one gank, enemy top lane would always get surprised and die level 4 for some weird reason. Yeah. And then Broxah would go bot lane with your Kennen and these kind of picks. You would get bot lane tower, and that's kind of how the snowball would start, and which is obviously why teams were like, just go mid and punish caps. Yeah. But now, it feels like it's a little bit more well-rounded, where Broxah could actually play around mid as well.
Yeah, and I don't think that's because of the support situation, which is what I wanted to say
just
before.
The meta one.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's because we're playing meta now, and we don't have so much pressure on us both, like that we need help and stuff and need to make plays. Yeah. But I think the main reason is actually because of Youngbuck. I think he came in and just changed everything about us and actually created a system which wasn't in place before. Like when we were playing before, we were always very like on the fly. We weren't really pre-planning much. We were just kind of seeing what was up, and then maybe someone would say like, this guy has no flash, by the way, so you can come and just flash on him. And that was basically the game plan. You know, we would just go for all these kills and hope that it worked out, which is why we looked so lost, I think, in like the mid part of the summer split, because this just didn't work anymore. You know, they stopped inting top level 4, they stopped inting bot level 6, and then we just ended up having no way of winning the game. Right. So now that Youngbuck has come in, I feel like we have a way of winning the game without actually killing anyone, which is really, really nice, because now you don't have this pressure that you have to outplay certain individuals, which is fine like against 8 out of 10 teams, but when you go up against a good player, it's really hard to win the game by killing him, because he thinks the way you think, and then he knows that you're in that brush, you know. Like I got this brush thing off for maybe like half a year, but then people figured it out, and then, you know, there was just nothing else to it.
There's a cannon in there.
Yeah, exactly.
When you walk forward, there's a cannon in there.
Yeah, so I think this Youngbuck thing has helped a lot, and maybe to explain more in detail what he does, it's like just making a system so that everyone kind of knows during each part of the game what they have to do. Like, it's everything from lane assignment to which waves you should be playing on, where you should get the vision, who should buy the pings, where you should place them. You know, all these small things that you maybe don't think about when you're watching the game, because when you're watching the game, you're mostly looking at the fights. Which objectives are being played for, but there's so much stuff behind this and before this that we were not thinking about before. But apparently Youngbuck did, and maybe it's one of the reasons as to why G2 are so successful, and hopefully one of the reasons as to why we will be successful now. So it feels a lot better, but I wouldn't give the credit to Hylissang for this. I think Hylissang is mainly a change in the laning phase, positive one, and mainly maybe a negative change later on. As for now, I think he's been improving a lot though. I think our week 1 performance was really bad in comparison to our current one. I think he's been much better now macro-wise. In the beginning, you know, it was kind of crazy where he would run off, and then we would be like, wait, we should maybe push this way first, and then he was like, no, let's fight here, and
he'd just scream, unicorns!
Meanwhile, now I think he's much more on board with the Fnatic way of playing the game, so it feels good. Like, I don't think he's a negative force by any means later on. It was just in the beginning, the laning phase was so much better, and the late game was so much worse, but now it's kind of like, we have a better laning phase, and our late game is completely fine, maybe even better than before. So I think it's been a positive change for everyone, actually. Yeah,
sounds like good progress. So I'm curious, when it comes to talking about implementing the system with Youngbuck and making a plan where everyone knows generally what they need to be doing, throughout each stage of the game. Did he just outline the structure for you guys, or did he fill it in too? Like, was he like, all right, you're playing this champion, you need to be doing this, or was it like, hey guys, this is how we need to think about it, and then he got the information from you as players to kind of fill in this chart or the strategies that you talked about?
Probably what you mentioned last. I think he didn't necessarily just tell everyone what to do, and then we're just puppets in his chess game.
He's
or
not
whatever.
Koma yet.
No, he's much more just like a sixth player and has a really good outside perspective. I mean, he's an ex-pro himself, and he's been winning 4 of the 4 titles, so he must be doing something right, you know. And everyone's just trusting whatever he comes on board with. He has like a lot of good presentations and brings up just good points that you don't think about, like wave management and lane assignment are things that happen every game, all the time, on every reset, but you don't think about it for the most part, just kind of go somewhere. Like,
I mean, a lot of teams don't even think about when to reset.
Yeah, exactly. And all these things he has presentations about, and he's giving a good reason as to why we should be thinking about it. And it just ends up with us creating this system that we now have in place.
So what's the role then between Youngbuck and Dylan? Because obviously Youngbuck is the team director.
Yeah.
Which I actually thought that was more of a management role of what kind of branding are we going to do?
I mean, I've heard his cooking is legendary, so I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a pessimist. I thought it might be the Youngbuck is cooking really good food for the team kind of role.
No, he's 50% management and he's 50% like
coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But he doesn't actually do any draft. How could you explain this? So Dylan takes care of the champions, you know?
Yes, Dylan's the draft guy.
Yeah, and then Youngbuck is the
macro guy.
Yeah, macro guy, exactly.
Okay.
So that would be the difference maybe. And they work really well together. Like they actually do everything together.
Yeah.
They're not in separate rooms hating each other, you know, they're actually
fighting each other for the spot over the draft.
Yeah, actually, that's because before it was kind of like that, maybe with when we had Nico and Daylor, it was kind of like that, I think, where they were sort of fighting each other, and then it ended up being like a rivalry. One of them had to get kicked, you know, like this whole situation sucked. But now it's not like that. I would say they're actually working together. They talk all the time to each other, and they pulled it. Like they actually talk about the draft with each other, talk about the presentation with each other. So it's not like Youngbuck does one, Dylan does two, but they actually do it semi together. But the main responsibility for drafting is on Dylan, and the main one for macro is on Youngbuck. And then
that's really good to hear.
We as players just need to be able to play the champions that are in the meta, know which ones are good, which ones are not good for us, and then give the info out, you know, and play the game.
So I'm curious, do you feel like this is the healthiest state Fnatic has been in a long time, or how long?
Since 2015, I would say, yeah. I think 2016 was really rough.
Was that the worst year for you in Fnatic?
Yeah, I would say so. I think 2014 was really chill. I mean, back
everything
then,
was new and amazing.
You had no coach and stuff back then as well, so you were just chilling. 2015 was ups and downs. I had my fair share of both in Elements and the 18-0 season with Fnatic.
I actually think a lot of fans completely forgot you ever were in Elements.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think for most people, you've always been on Fnatic.
Yeah, you've literally been there forever. Like
people don't. I never see people talk about
poor Steelback, man.
The one split on Elements.
Forgotten as the Fnatic AD.
But that's another one. I think a lot of people also kind of forgot that Steelback was the first AD carry on that new 2015 Fnatic. Because I remember going into the 2015 spring split. It was when we just lost Joe and D-Man as well, the Brockers. A lot of stuff had happened in Europe. Yep. I think NA had just started importing EU players over, more than just Bjergsen, because Jensen got unbanned, I believe, and he got signed.
Incarnation
that was the summer, and he got signed, so coming into spring, back 2015, I remember being like, we looked at this Fnatic lineup. Hooney, I don't know what the fuck that guy was.
Game over.
Yeah, no, game over. Oh, horrible jungler in Korea. Feb event rookie. Okay, pretty hyped about that guy. Steelback. I don't really know much about him. He's probably not going to be great. And then Yellow Star, which was obviously a big name. But we looked at that and being like, middle of the pack, maybe kind of decent. But Elements, on the other hand, Frog and Rekkles, you know, big.
I actually have this
names.
theory: if you put this lineup in another organization where we wouldn't have to struggle for our lives, we would have been much better than we were.
I mean, the talent was definitely there.
Yeah, I mean, the difference of Alliance to Elements was enormous.
Right.
And it was basically from an actual organization to a one-guy company difference. And it was just, it was unplayable, like legit unplayable. I could not foresee that when I made the choice of joining. I actually didn't even know when I joined that they would have to go from Alliance to Elements.
That it became like a new
Yeah, I had no
org,
idea.
basically.
I just got told randomly, we are no longer Alliance, by the way. And
We Elements now.
Someone has
Wait.
bought it in all of your contracts.
And then they did the branding of something wicked was a rock, or there was some element, some fire and ice and whatever.
And they tried to force the situation where where you had apartments and office to play from, but nothing was set up. So we were like struggling with that for half of the split. And once we actually got it up and running, they wanted to replace people. It was just.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was.
It
really
was bad. So that split actually never happened.
I got out of there as soon as I could.
That split never happened. And what people remember is 18-0.
And there's the up, right
18-0 Fnatic happened, and that's what people remember.
But that split was probably the best split that I've ever had in Fnatic. Even better than the one I have now. I mean, that's just
sure.
Right?
I mean, is it just because it's like you're just winning and there's just it feels to
no,
me like
it was just everyone was on the same page. Like you would wake up in the morning and know what the other guy wanted from you.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so easy. Like I don't know how to explain it otherwise. It was just you.
Everything just worked.
Yeah.
Everything clicked.
Yeah, it was just so easy. And Daylor worked perfectly in that team because Daylor's strength was, I would say, personal, not professional. Like he knew League of Legends, right? But he was not a young buck. He did not have the ex-pro experience and ex-pro coaching experience. He was first timing, right? That year was his first year. But he had some really good insights, I think, on like how to improve on a personal note, which is something I think is really undervalued in the pro scene, like working on your mental and stuff. Like I don't think people realize how important this is. Yeah. And they just think if I'm a little bit better mechanically, then I'm gonna win more games. But they don't realize that if you're a bit better mentally, you're gonna actually become a different player, and that's gonna win you like everything, There's just gonna be such a big difference.
One of the most underrated skills of anyone working with a team is conflict resolution.
Oh yeah.
Because, I mean, and it can be anything. Any workplace, there will be conflicts. There will be issues between you and another person, and if no one knows how to solve that conflict,
yeah. I mean, no one cares how good you are at League of Legends if you're a giant asshole. It turns out, if you are hard to work with, if you are difficult to work with, it's just. Especially in this era where, like, if you are the best of the best AD carry of all time, it still rarely translates to solo kills in lane, right? It rarely translates to you solo winning the game.
Yeah, I don't think people measure too much anymore by skill. I think it's too even these days to like put players apart by skill. I think it's much more about mental and stuff now, which is why I think it's so important. Like, I don't think I will be able to be the best AD carry or among the best AD carries for such a long time now if I wasn't mental. Like my mental wasn't as good as it is. Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes from Daylor. Without him, I wouldn't have been where I am today.
Now we sadly, very slightly segued away. I was gonna mention the 18-0 split and the final. I was gonna call it the greatest split. I feel like in
you're
European.
Currently calling it.
I used the excuse of saying we segued away and said I wanted to talk about this to actually segue back to it. I just wanted to say, now that we have Rekkles here, and he mentioned this coming into us, that his last final he was in that summer split 2015 in Stockholm. So in Sweden, they play Origin. I think most people will remember this final, but it went to 5 games. We had a pentakill for Rekkles. Fnatic wins it in the end when Yellowstar picks any support, and they play like Rumble top. And I actually remember this game so well.
Olaf jungle. It
was all early game. Yeah. And they won the early game, but then Origin kind of stalled it out with a Zia mid, and we were like, oh my god, they're going to late game. Sven is going to carry this. Or was he called Niels back then, or was he called Sven? It was Niels. Niels versus Rekkles. Niels is going to carry late game. And then just when we're about to set up the potential Origin comeback, Peke doesn't have flash on Azir, and Yellowstar walks around to the Raptor camp
and gets him
and then he smacks him over the wall with the tippers, kills him. Fnatic wins the fight, win the final. We had over 1 million views on just Twitch English watching, with the highest I think for these kind of games.
God damn.
Or maybe it was 1 million total. It was crazy numbers, but that was the sickest final I've ever casted.
So yes, that split was the best split.
There we go. Now we can move on. I just have to get that in there.
All right, but now comes the sad part. Now that we've celebrated the true joy and the high highs, let's talk. You have not been back to finals since, and it feels like 2016. Understandable, right? The team was not clicking well, but last summer specifically, you guys seemed unstoppable. Collapsed against Misfits, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yep.
And now, so I'm curious, What's changing this year? How do you stop something like that from happening again?
So for 2016, I want to say actually I disagree. I think this year was not understandable, and I think there were so many small things along the way that just made it hard, which I think were really unavoidable if I would have taken more charge. Like I was just kind of coming along similar to what I did in 2015. I think I just got a bit too complacent maybe with the idea of how things were in 2015 summer, where I came in as like the new guy, even though I wasn't, but you know what I mean? And then I just tried to listen as much as I could and follow the others, right? But then when we lost Yellow Star, Huni, Rainover, and got the new players, I feel like I should have taken more charge than I did. Like I was really trying to learn how to shot call and all these things, but I don't think actually that was too important now that I think it back. Like I don't think shot calling was, like if I learned to shot call, it would have been the defining factor if we make it or not. I think it was much more about just like getting the team together, you know? And I don't think shot calling is the way you get your team together. I think we're just too separated from the get-go. We started swapping players in and out all the time. Like even when we started being successful with Cly, we got Yellow back, which sounds great, right? Like Yellow is a better sport than Cly in the history of League of Legends. But at the time, I actually think it was the wrong move. I think we should have kept Cly because we went from being basically no one, maybe even missing playoffs.
When they had
to
the Katowice tournament.
Yeah, get second at Katowice, third in the spring split, beating HK in the third place game, 3-2, and beating Vitality when they were really hyped up for the quarterfinals there, and only losing to G2, which were just really good at the time. So I think it was just all these small things like players in and out, not getting the team together the way you should get a team together, I just made it hard for myself, you know. So I don't actually think it was understandable, but a valuable lesson, because now then that meant for 2017 I was just, you know, ready to smash it. So I actually think we should have won at least one of the splits, maybe even both, because I think in Spring Split we were really good as well. Like Spring Split playoffs were really good, and we might as well have won that series against G2. We were 1-0 up, and I think the second game we were like 6 or 7k up with a swap. Like it was crazy times. But
quick reminder,
we might as well have been 2-0 in that semifinals against G2.
Yeah, there was a lane swap with Twitch and stuff.
And if we got 2-0 up, probably would have won that series as well, because we had all the momentum with us. And then we play Unicorns in the finals after beating G2, which on paper sounds like a fair game for us, right? And then you win the Spring Split, go into the Summer Split, have the same performance, have that semifinals against Misfits, and you don't tilt. And then you have 2 splits, 1. So I actually don't think it's understandable. I think it's... I actually feel a bit ashamed in a way.
It's interesting
2.5
to hear.
years.
I definitely
finals.
think the Summer Split playoffs was unacceptable. I think Spring, I get what you're saying with the lane swap, and you guys were winning the early game in game 2 against G2, but...
Not even just early. It was like 40 minutes into the game. We're sieging their base with 10k up with Baron and everything, and I just inted bot. Like,
I definitely still felt like G2... on paper was the better overall team. You guys just had some really creative ways of playing the game that was very unusual and was really good against G2 because they were not used to randomly there's a lane swap happening.
but did you not feel like it was the same in Summer Split, where we were just winning games by randomness?
So that's
sort of?
interesting.
I feel like that was a lot of
Because
skill.
Misfits actually had a good system in place for Summer Split. Like they were not a bad team.
They did.
No, they were good. But the thing that's interesting is I would have agreed with you, except that we talked to so many people about Fnatic, so many teams. And I mean, specifically, I think we talked to G2 and we talked to Youngbuck, and he said to me at least
In Summer Split or
after summer,
Right.
and he said we were legitimately scared of Fnatic.
That was because of our scrim records. We were beating everything.
Yeah, and they said this wasn't like people look on stage and they just see the cannon or the bullshit or whatever, right? And he said, but they don't understand this team was actually smart.
Yeah.
This wasn't like we're just cheesing with random picks, we're playing something weird. Like they were better than us on a macro level.
And that's why for summer I was surprised you guys didn't make the final. In spring, when you walked into that game against G2, I came in with the mindset that G2 were the better overall team in a full best of 5, and there's a much higher chance they're gonna win than you guys. Now, obviously, full credit to some of the strategies you guys pulled out. Game 3, I think kind of fell apart for you guys.
I think we got really outdrafted though, because we should have first picked Cannon, but we first picked Chen, and then they went Cannon top,
And they took the cannon, yeah.
which ended up with a really bad match up top, and I couldn't get what I wanted to play bot, and then we just ended up falling over in draft. And then game 4 was quite even actually. I remember we were playing like Kale Tristana or something.
Oh, that was the Kale game,
yeah.
for Caps.
Which was incredibly winnable. We got Nash, and I remember we chased him in the mid lane, and then everyone just trolled super hard, and we all died.
So many good series to go back and watch though. But Summer Split, it was mainly...
So I actually felt like we were better in spring than summer. Because when I went into that
Interesting.
semifinals against Misfits, I was really worried.
That was so interesting because from the outside perspective, Fnatic have been winning and winning and winning that
You guys
split. And the
were
very last
unstoppable.
game before
Yeah.
playoffs, you beat G2 2-0.
But they were not good in
As well.
summer, I think.
Sure, but like it was still like you look at it as
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is G2
Yeah,
Esports in
yeah.
Europe. Of course, they're gonna be great. You know?
Three-time champions at the time.
And then when you beat them, Misfits, the team who just got 6th place, barely made it. Rocket were close to grabbing the spot from Misfits going into
Yeah.
playoffs, but they came in and were like, we will hard camp mid. Super hard. And then they understood how to like close out the game as well after getting an early advantage. And that worked like against first Unicorns
And then us.
and then you guys. But of course didn't work against G2 and they got 3-0 in the
But I
final.
think that's the strength of G2 though. Like they are just really good at reviewing, or was the strength of G2.
Mhm.
Maybe it's our strength now. Actually, yeah, it is our strength now. Jungkook's strength.
Oh, there you go.
To review a team and then make a good plan around what he has seen. So probably for last year when he saw Misfits beat us, he just said probably took perks like this
Yeah.
guy only camps
They're
mid,
gonna
so
go
let's
mid.
not die mid, and then they have no chance of winning. Like I think they're just really good, or was really good at this.
All right, so let's talk about present day a little bit. We've talked a lot about the history. A lot of
love the
really, I
history,
know, I
though.
love the history too because there's good series. I actually forgot how good you guys were in Spring 2. Damn, it's so crazy.
I mean, I think spring was the best split or the best end of a split that I've had since 2015.
that lane swap was sick. I still
Because you guys won that winning streak after the really rough start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we lost the semis to G2, right? But after that, we 3-0 Misfits.
Yeah.
We go into summer split with 2-0, 2-0. Like, we just continued.
Yeah.
You know, we had this streak for like
Yeah.
3-4 months where we're just smashing every team. And then at the end of summer, we're actually dropping games. That's why I don't think we were extreme by the end of summer. Like, I was worried that we did not make Worlds there. I
Interesting.
actually didn't think we should have.
Interesting.
I think HK should have beaten us.
Wow.
But for some reason, they
mental
were bad.
block.
Like,
yeah, mental
you
block.
look at their
I think.
players. Odoamne, Jankos, Febiven, 2 Koreans, and Proli. And then you look how shaky we were. I don't think we should have went to Worlds.
They're chokers. I think that was the final thing we had to decide on for that H2K lineup, is that they just fell apart every time it mattered, and we won't.
It's just
get-
crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, it
The
actually
amount of
is.
the player capacity they have, that they are able to choke.
I never thought about
When it
Fnatic not
matters.
making Worlds that summer split.
It's interesting. I didn't either.
Personally.
Not when it came to H2K against them in the finals, I think. But let's so talking about today, I mean, it seems like this team is getting better and better. And Sven and Mithy are gone. G2
Hey, it's a lot easier now.
yeah. So is this the split? Is this the split where you guys come back and win it all?
It has to be. If we don't win it now, then I don't know when we'll ever win it. to be
Summer
honest.
split.
No.
No.
There's always another split. You signed a 3-year deal,
this
mate.
intense emotional statement. I don't know if we can ever win it if we don't win it now. And you're like, summer. You ruined
Yeah,
the
I mean,
moment.
there
got
are going to be
6
more
splits,
splits,
man.
right? But when you think about it, like the player I am, not making finals for 2.5 years is just not acceptable.
Yeah.
And then you make that 3 years,
And then the
3.5
organization
years.
you're playing.
Well,
Why
yeah,
am I even playing League?
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
let's talk because now you're signed to Fnatic for 3 years. And we're gonna jump into talking a little bit more about you personally. So you've jumped in, you're signing with 3 years. If you don't win what
Yeah,
happens, right?
I actually don't know. I mean, I've already kind of made my mind that if I don't like start winning stuff now, then maybe I should consider doing something else. To be honest, like I
But
actually
you signed a 3-year deal, mate.
Yeah, but what I mean is they can maybe bring in another AD carry, and then I can
Right.
take a step back, be maybe a sub position, and just see what's up. Like, am I actually the problem? You know, because there has to be something behind me being in the team and not being successful. Like that's just how I feel it has to be.
I think not being successful, I understand what you mean, but like even
I mean, I know I'm good, but
Yeah, but I mean also with the team,
The
like you
last
guys,
part, you know.
you guys always are fighting in top 4. You know, yes, you've missed the last thing needed to actually make the final. That of course is big, and I mean it's classic as we see in football as well. You're playing for Real Madrid. Like if you don't make finals, if you don't compete,
Yeah,
for
have to
first,
win. That's
you know,
just-
that's it. It's just a
that's how it
failure
is,
no
yeah.
matter what. And I like that you have that attitude, and I think Fnatic as an organization should have that attitude as well. But like, I agree.
I
that
just
this-
want us to be successful, right?
Yeah.
And if
And
I
you
by
wanna
any
win.
means think that we would be more successful with someone else than me, I would like to take a step back and let that guy play. Just
Yeah.
watch the games, maybe the scrims, and try to learn in another way than I am now.
Do you want to be a coach or?
I mean, I could kind of be, you know, like if you're on a sub AD, you might as well watch the games and try to coach. But yeah, I just want to win. So I feel like if we don't win this year, then I should maybe reconsider. 3.5 years is a lot of time. So.
All right.
Yeah, but so you talk about like kind of like success, and it's very clear that like winning a split is success. It's clear that winning MSI is success, but
I think international event is debatable though. There's Koreans, so
yeah, it's always hard. I understand that, but
I just feel like winning Europe has to just be like
So how,
a job requirement for playing in Fnatic. You know, like it just
I
has
agree,
to
I
be.
agree.
how do you stay satisfied then on like the week to week of just playing regular season if like the only thing that matters to you in the end is like crushing playoffs, right? Is it just pursuit
The
of that
progress,
number?
I would say. Like if the progress is good, I feel like I'm kind of satisfied. I don't really care too much about the results in LCS. Like if we're winning the game in 20 minutes or 40 minutes, I think it's really whatever. As long as the progress is good and we're actually doing stuff that we worked on in scrims on stage and people are like playing in a similar way or acting in a similar way, then I'm happy because then I know when it really matters, I can rely on these people around me to do their job. But when scrims are one thing, LCS is another, and then randomly we have tilt and all these things going on, then I'm not satisfied even if we're winning, which is kind of what I felt last summer. Like we're winning games by randomness. So I don't want that to be the case now. I want us to win the game because we're better than enemy team. Straight up.
So last split, we heard a lot of talks about how scrimming was not productive. You know, I think we had Source on post game lobby say sometimes it felt like not playing scrims benefited the team more than actually playing scrims.
But
is that completely changed now?
I don't think that was a scrim culture for Europe though. I think that was just us.
For Fnatic, it was just for Fnatic.
Mentally unbalanced team. Like,
is that better now, despite having 4 of the same players?
Yeah. I think it's much better now. But that's also because of the system, you know. Like it was so stressful to play last year when the way you won the game was by like solo killing or 2v2 killing or, you know, cheesing them level 1 to 3 or something. That was just really stressful because most of the scrims people wouldn't fall for this because they're AFK under the tower level 1 watching Facebook or something. So, you know, we're not getting the leads.
Cam out of the game.
We're not getting the lead, so we need, and then people get really stressed out and they start complaining like, why are you not winning your lane? You were counter picking. You should be up in CS. You should have the pressure, and then it just becomes this war within the team that wasn't needed, which is why I think Soa said what he said.
Right.
But it's not like this these days. Like we just don't have this.
Perfect.
I mean, it does feel like it just keeps going back to that structure. So do you feel like when someone makes a mistake, you can always point back to like, did you do what you were supposed to do in the context of the structure, rather than it being like, you're an idiot, you fucked up?
Yeah, that's kind of how it is now.
Cool.
So it makes me think that last year wasn't that great, even though it looked kind of great on paper. You know, you go from being basically the worst team in spring, like we're really bad in spring, like the beginning of spring, you know, we were shit, to making top 8 worlds. It's kind of like a golden year if you look back at it, but being a part of the process, it was stressing me out. So I think this year it's going to be much better, even though the results might not be top 8 worlds, because that's just hard to, you know, plan for.
I'm going to make a statement now. This is just about you personally, now, Rekkles. And Drakos doesn't want me to do this, but I'm going to do it.
You do it.
I want you to say if you agree or disagree with this.
Yeah.
You are the face of EU LCS.
Yes.
You agree?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any other players in the league right now who's up there with you in terms of... Source also one of the faces?
Perks is getting there. Jankos is getting there. I think Maxlor dropped a lot this year. But he had a good opportunity to get his face on there as well.
So being the face of Europe, or one of the faces of Europe, how does that impact you? Because that's a lot of focus, pressure,
responsibility,
fame, everything. Like it feels like if you go out in an interview and say, "Oh man, Europe suck," bunch of people are just going to be like, "Oh my god, panic! Europe is horrible. Rekkles said they're horrible. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god."
That's kind of how I felt when I mentioned that I was considering leaving.
That was the kind of reactions
that people were panicking that the region
Europe's over. Europe's over. Everyone's gone. We're never going to get an AD carry ever again.
Do you think a lot about this all the time, being like really one of the big faces?
I've kind of grown to live with it in a way. I think I've just been really disciplined with myself for pretty much my entire career. Maybe not season 4, but season 5 to now, I've been really disciplined. So this responsibility doesn't bother me. It actually feels like maybe even a positive thing. Like it just keeps me going, you know. Just pressures me to do what I do best, and that's playing League.
I mean, I think, you know, my question would be is, does it ever stop? Do you feel like, I mean, we have a really tight competitive schedule year to year, right? There's not a ton of time for you to get free time.
Yeah, if you go to Worlds and everything.
Yeah, if you go to Worlds, if you keep qualifying for this event, do you feel like you get time not being Rekkles, do you feel like you get time being Martin, just being yourself, doing things outside of League of Legends? Or are you a person that's happy with League of Legends kind of just being the end-all be-all in your life?
I would say I'm happy with League of Legends being everything. But I still get time, like, for example, just like a normal week, we play LCS like 2 games a week. It's not much time.
It's a little bit easier now.
Yeah. And then the rest of the days we're just hanging out in our office, right? Playing scrims and solo queue with each other. So that kind of feels like a time where I'm Martin and not Rekkles. I mean, I'm still very professional about the way I do things, right? It's not like I'm trolling or anything. But I've kind of just been able to put the two together, I don't consider myself a different person when I'm Martin and then a different person when I'm Rekkles. I've kind of just come to be both at once in a way.
It's admirable. I think the other thing that we kind of heard Perks talking about this when there was some criticism laid back at Bjergsen, and I want to know if you feel the same way in the sense that when you are the most famous player on the team, and in this case, probably the most famous player in Europe, do you feel like anytime Fnatic does anything bad, you're instantly going to be the guy that's criticized? And on the opposite end, anytime...
I think you could see that this split as well. Like, I was maybe not performing as good as I should be in week 1, week 2. Yeah, week 1, week 2, maybe. Yeah.
Instantly, we make a segment about
and then
it.
We did. Yeah.
My career's over, right? That was what people were saying. So it doesn't surprise me. I've kind of again, come to live with it. But
does it irritate you all? Because I feel like on the flip side, when anything goes well, it's like, thank God Rekkles is on this team. He's carrying everyone to victory. Does it irritate you, like when a teammate is playing really well and people just look at you instead of looking at other people?
Yes, it does. I think, like for example, someone like Caps should hear more often that he's really fucking good. Sorry for swearing.
That's all good.
Hey, we all swear here. It's fine. Dude, I'm trying to tell Caps he's really good. Yeah. And then he's like, but what about Rekkles? I'm like, but Caps, this is about you. You're really good. You're like insane. And he's like, yeah. And then blah, blah, blah. Like, we're trying. We're actually trying really hard.
I know how good you feel inside, when someone from the outside says that you're doing stuff right. Then you really it makes you feel like you're spending your time well, you're living the dream life, all these things. You just get warm,
Everyone loves positive feedback.
And I get that all the time, so I would like to share some of my warmth with my teammates. And have them feel that as well, because I know I'm stable either way. Like, I don't need people to tell me that I'm doing my job right. I know I'm doing my job right. So I just need my teammates to be happy, fine with life, want to progress, and then I know we're gonna win, because I'm always gonna be fine. I don't need anyone to tell me anything. I'm just gonna do my job, play 14-15 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'm gonna be good to go when we're playing our semifinals.
We're actually trying really hard on the broadcast, where we kind of talk about like what are some of the key players and key players we want to highlight and key things we want to mention. Like, we're trying really hard to hammer Caps, home, because like
he's the MVP of our team.
We do so many things on Caps now. I did the MVP thing. I put Caps in it as well. And the guys is like, Fnatic is really lucky, not lucky, but they've done a good job with recruiting, because I think with you and Caps, you have the best like duo carry setup in Europe.
I agree.
And Caps' problem obviously last year was, there were some decision-making issues for sure.
He still has some problems with that, but I think the system helped him a lot now. Yeah. Because he didn't really know what to do last year. I think he was kind of just, like when we had no plan in mind, he would just kind of pull his solo queue tactics out and go for it. But now we actually have the system in place, right? So he doesn't have to ever think outside of the box. He just has to follow the guidelines. Sorry, and we're gonna be fine. Yep. He can continue playing like a mechanical god and just follow the guidelines, and then we're gonna win.
And it's so clear. There was one game where the classic counter to Fnatic came in, vitality game of like Caps a million times. But already the following game, like Broxah was much more focused on vision around mid lane, but being around for potential counter ganks. And then suddenly, teams are not just able to hard camp mid. And then teams haven't actually figured out ever since, because you guys went on a winning streak. So far, I also think with Fnatic, and I want to hear if this is something you agree with or you've noticed, but I've noticed a lot of teams in Europe who find success now stepped away from doing 1-3-1 comms and drafted a super strong teamfight comms. It was actually what kind of happened at the start of the split, when the meta was just pure late game teamfight. But then some teams kind of tried to divert it and do different things. I've noticed with you guys,
It's just too easy to stall, I think. So you need a strong team fight comp.
it's
If you
a
can't
lot
fight,
of
you're
like,
not gonna win.
yeah, like the Corki double AD carry comes
Yeah.
with tanks in front of them. It's like super sick late game team
As long as there's
fighting.
gathering storm, you might as well take it.
I mean, right there, Rekkles currently holding the mid lane, not split pushing in a side lane because it's not necessary.
Yeah.
You know, let Caps go grab the wave and then let him regroup mid, and then bam, another strong team fight. Your Unicorns of Love draft, where you guys had, it was Galio, Jarvan, some other top lane who could dive the back line, and then I think you were just left as an AD carry in the back.
I was playing Sivir.
Yeah, you were playing Sivir.
Yeah, Vladimir.
And there was
It
Alistar.
was Vladimir top.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Vladimir top Alistar. It was
Oh,
everything was
God.
like, I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, yes. The moment they can group, this is gonna be so sick.
Yeah, I
And then
don't
like
think-
group smack.
I don't think Sivir was that good of a pick for me, but I knew that for the comp it was really good. I could just press ult and everyone else
Yep.
dies.
Yeah,
And then I ended up
ulting
getting
of
10 kills
Vladimir.
anyway, so-
And you guys have
Yeah.
been doing this now for basically 5-6 games in a row.
Yeah.
And it seems to really be the recipe for success, at least for Fnatic. These like team fighting comps and rely on the double carry setup with you and Caps.
I mean, I think it should be for everyone because you just can't end the game. You know, there's too much wave clear, too much late game, priority meta on like almost every role. Like top lane has GP, Camille, maybe not Gnar, but Vlad.
Yeah.
All these champions are just insane late game. You know, mid and AD speaks for itself. It's always a late game role, but the fact that top also now has a late game champion, or 3 of them actually, that are like really good, and then jungle and support can just play a tank. Like you must be able to fight. If you can't fight, you're not gonna win. That's just
Yeah.
how it is. As for the silent thing that you mentioned earlier, one of the reasons as to why I was playing so much silent last year was because Caps could not play silent.
Oh,
he
interesting.
actually did not know when he should do what on the side lane.
Uh-huh.
He was really good at playing mid. He was legit just, you know, you put him mid and he would just 1v2, 1v3, 1v4, you know, like they could send how many they want and he would normally, in most cases, just hold the wave on his own or maybe even kill a guy and be fine. Sometimes, you know, he had the games when he was overextending or whatever and he would die and we would lose mid tower and it looked really terrible. But for the most part, it was actually fine putting him mid, putting me side, and we would get pressure through that because he was just so good at playing mid, and I was so good at playing side through with my experience. You know, I have so much game knowledge now that I can just know exactly what I need to do on the side lane to get ahead 100 CS, 5 levels. Like, yeah, I'm just that far ahead, I think, in game knowledge in comparison to most of these rookies that we have now. But we tried to teach him side laning, or I guess Youngbuck was the one that taught him ultimately like what he actually needed to do, because I was really trying last year. Like I was actually doing reviews with him where I was trying to explain what he needs to do, when he needs to move, what wave he should push, so that his wave bounces back, he gets the farm, you know, in 2-3 minutes. He has this period where he can say, I can move now. If they don't catch top now, they're gonna lose a lot of farm, we're gonna get ahead in levels. You know, he, like when he could learn all these things, I felt like he could be really good, but I couldn't teach him it. Like I really tried to, but I didn't really feel like I could. But then Youngwa came in, just had a couple of presentations, and boom, like Caps can just do what I did on side.
Presentations. I keep hearing about
We
these
need them presentations.
I feel like I could actually be decent in League of Legends.
I need one last thing on this split push thing. I need you to give what you find to be the most important tip for people in solo queue who wants to learn to be good in side lanes.
They just have to learn wave management. They just have to know which waves you should push and which you shouldn't. And I don't want to say too much because I know
Yeah, of
that
course not.
some
Just-
pro players might listen to this and try to pick up
Every
on,
pro player listens to this. Trust me.
on why I'm pushing which wave, and then they can maybe make plans like he's going to push that wave because he said in the podcast that he will push that wave, you know. But long story short, if you do it a bit and you know that the cannon pushes the non-cannon wave, then you can set up some good stuff for yourself. You know, you can push the right waves. You can move when your wave is going to push back to you, force the enemy to match you. Like let's say you push your side wave, you know it's going to bounce back to you by either pushing it into the tower or pushing a non-cannon wave versus a cannon wave. You can move mid, force the enemy to match you mid, stand there for 1 minute, and then go back top and you catch 3 waves. The enemy lost 4 waves or something. Then you do it again, go back mid, force him to match you, wait 5 minutes, and you're 5 levels up.
So the answer is not to stay in the side lane for the entire game long, guys.
No.
You do have to move towards mid lane.
I think I was kind of pushing it a bit last year. You know? Like I think I was doing it right though. Like the wave management was really good. I was actually ahead almost every game.
Every player praised your wave management.
Yeah, by like 4 or 5 levels. But at some point I should have also grouped. But I think that was more champion related than me not knowing when to group. I think when I was playing Kennen, I just felt like if I group, I'm really useless. But if I stay on side lane, no one can do anything about it. So
It's okay.
Yeah.
Deficio struggled with this too. He is notorious for literally never grouping ever.
But anyways, it's better to have your AD mid than it is to have it side lane.
Yes.
And I agree. Once now we can have caps on side lane, I should be mid. I say this every game. You know, once the tier 1s are down on the side lane, I'm going mid. If you're mid as well, I'm sorry, I'm taking your
You're a
farm, you know?
changed man.
Look
now.
at that.
You're demanding
I love
the
it.
mid lane.
I love it.
And then Caps just does it right on side lane. You know, like
Yeah,
I see him doing what I'm doing, so I'm just happy because he's the new Rekkles. You know, he's up levels, he's fucking fed, and sorry for swearing.
So he's not teenage
He's the
Faker
new
anymore, or
Rekkles.
baby Faker. He's the new Rekkles.
He's Rekkles.
Baby Rekkles. That's his new
and
name.
I just need to play Ezreal and W him for some attack speed.
Oh god, Ezreal, please.
I'm very happy. No, actually, I hate Ezreal. I really do. I'm like the worst Ezreal as well.
I feel like he's
Actually,
so
I'm
lackluster
fine.
in Europe.
I'm fine Ezreal.
No, but he's so lackluster
Alright.
in Europe, I feel like.
Ezreal is a bad champion
Yeah,
in general.
uh.
I just tanked too many bans, dude. Eight champions out of 10 in 2 games.
Alright.
Where's my jinx?
We are all over the place, so I'm going to bring it in, and we're going to transition into
Maybe
our
next-
next segment. All right, it's time for our next segment. It is the EUphoria podcast, EU LCS League of Legends Power Rankings.
Very long time.
Halfway through, I figured out that I had said too many words, so I thought I'd say just get them all in there. So just as a recap, this is what we had. I'm going to tell you the last week's and the standings. So last week we had first place Vitality, second place Fnatic, third place G2, fourth place Schalke, fifth place Splice, sixth is Rockhat, seventh Giants, 8th Misfits, 9th Unicorns of Love, and 10th H2K.
We should write that down for the dear Rekkles so he doesn't forget it instantly.
Yeah, all right. You work on that, and I will tell you the current actual standings, which are Fnatic, G2, and Vitality tied for first, so we were kind of close in that regard. Giants and Misfits and Splice, and also Rockhat tied for fourth. Oh joy, so many ties. Schalke are 8th place, H2K a surprise 9th after a 2-0 week, and Unicorns of Love in 10th. So, our new job is to make an update, a power ranking, where we actually think that people state, and see how it compares with the current standings. Now, we usually, Rekkles, how we do this is
Thank you.
That was last week.
All right, thanks.
how we look back and we usually start in 10th place because we find it's easier.
But now, is it easier?
Is it easier? So this is my question. Let's just start with it. Who is the worst team in the EU LCS right now?
It is still between Unicorns of Love and H2K.
Do you think so?
Do you agree
For
with
what?
that?
Or I would say Giants.
Yeah, I would say Giants as
Is
well.
the other option.
Giants or HK maybe, but HK have Juke, so maybe Giants.
Yeah, H2K.
But
last
Joko
week,
is good as well. Actually, I
But
feel bad for
HK
these
looked
junglers.
better.
The
HK
junglers
looked
are
better.
pretty good, but his teammates are not that great.
So what? Giants is interesting. I think Unicorns love an H2K. No one in the world would argue it's a safe bet. They're at the bottom of the standings. But Giants, what makes them bottom place contenders?
So I think the games, first of all, the games have gotten a lot faster. There's a lot more happening, especially around mid games or just when laning phase starts ending, where teams are getting really big advantages. And I think Giants, and we said this multiple times,
has no macro.
yeah, they abused the fact that they could draft full late game and teams couldn't end games, and they would eventually get to a late game teamfight state where they could just start winning teamfights.
Also, Joker is really good early, so I think they got early advantages from him.
Which they then would actually, funny
yeah,
enough,
they would
lose
actually
again.
lose in
They
the
would
mid
lose
game.
them again in
Yeah,
the mid
but
game.
before,
Yeah.
when teams couldn't end, that
Yeah,
would give
yeah.
them a lead on a carry. That carry could just scale up and carry.
And I think for
The
me,
game.
I was hype on this team because I thought Ruin was doing really well, and I also thought Steelback was out of the perpetual bad habits that he's had across his career, usually with not being super active in the game. And I think he's going back to that as they've started to lose, which is, it feels to me like you can't, even if, let's say, the strategy still worked where they just didn't play macro, waited for late game and out team fought, you need a carry who's going to be reliable in those scenarios. And I feel like Steelback is no longer that.
So,
This is tough. I mean,
I actually think putting them as the worst current team in the EU LCS is fair,
Same.
despite their record of 5-5. Because it doesn't matter how many games you want to
I
start.
trust Chook selfie combo.
So that's the thing, is that I think it feels bad, and some people are going to be pissed because they're 5-5. But I think that,
That doesn't matter. That's a start. This is a power ranking, baby.
all right, Giants 10th place. Now, Unicorns of Love and H2K Gaming are the two easiest. But do you have any other suggestions for 9th?
I mean, Schalke is in the debate, but
Schalke has to be better than this team.
There's
just no way.
I cannot put them there because like they are playing, if we base it on last week, like a bottom team.
Yeah, but the upset was really trolling last week. There's no way trolls this
And
week.
2 weeks ago. You kinda,
Yeah, but
kind
you
of
know,
trolled as well.
there has to be
The
some
thing
point.
is it's like Schalke play like 75% of a perfect game, right?
They do a lot of good
And it's
stuff.
way easier
they
for
play
me to
good against
believe.
us.
Yeah.
They were winning that game
That's
until
what
they died mid.
They have to be higher. I just want to put the name in that little discussion.
Because let's make it clear, this is not. These guys might not make playoffs. I think it's important that we mention that
I think
Schalke
they would.
are not looking great.
I think they would.
I can see them not make playoffs.
I think it's a possibility.
I think they have to with the lineup they have. I think they are better than the teams they're fighting with right now towards the bottom. But I have this little
But it's just
fear.
one game, you know. They might as well be 5-5, and then we would not talk about them.
This week though, I think they play at least one match that's really difficult.
Schalke Misfits and Schalke Splice. So
So actually, both matches.
Yeah, both matches are interesting.
Let's just say they go 0-2 this week. Those
Yeah.
are two teams they're fighting against for playoffs right now.
Yeah.
And then there's only 3 weeks left.
But I actually think Schalke is better than Misfits right now, so I would not be
That's
surprised if
interesting.
they beat them.
okay, so let's lock in
Number 9.
number 9. If Schalke's not a contender,
It's
then let's talk
H2K
about
or
who is.
Unicorns.
I would say HK.
I like what H2K are doing much more than they did before, because before they were god awful and did nothing. I think the game against Rocket was a classic clown fiesta, which was all over the place. So I think putting them number 9, but with potential to definitely go higher for next week, is fine. Because I like the Shook selfie thing.
Putting
And
Unicorns above
I think they're
them.
going to get worse. I don't think
Ooh.
HK is going to get better.
you think they're gonna go they're number 9 now? Do you
I think they
can
had
actually
their
go
honeymoon
down?
phase last week, and now they're going to get worse and worse and worse, and then they're going to end somewhere where they are now.
I feel like Shook brought experience and an element of shot calling to a team that had no shot calling at all. And I think if you look at the individual talent on the lineup, I think Selfie is individually good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying anything about their players. I just think as a team, they just don't seem to do anything, you know? They just play the lanes and hope for the best, kind of.
I mean, they were a lot more active with Shook.
Which is what we did last year.
Sure,
So that didn't work out too bad.
I mean, let's put them... So you think Unicorns Love are better than HK right now?
Yeah.
I'm willing to give it. It's hard for me to say either way, but if you really believe that this is like just the honeymoon phase and it'll falter, then I can easily see H2K being a team that collapses in a
And
week.
then we lose to them now, and everyone just...
Yeah,
and then
so
you get
timestamps
mean
this.
forever.
I don't think they're going to collapse. I think they actually will go slightly higher.
No, I don't think so either. I just don't think they will get better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's put them number 9.
So
and
I'll
then
put them 9.
number 8.
Easy unicorns at this
Unicorns.
point. 'cause
It's
it can't be
Unicorns
anyone
above.
else.
Yeah.
Now, this is a team that we've already talked about on the podcast, and it feels like they are improving. They are getting better. Exile is slowly
They
getting
are
better.
good for a team who's 2-8. Like, they are. I think Cold is good. I think...
The highest praise you can really give any team, right? They're good for a team who is 2-8.
It's true.
I mean, there you go. I'll take it.
All right, now it gets really difficult.
Okay,
Now
so
now it's hard.
Now we have this
7.
mess of a group.
who is not making playoffs is always like how I like to ask this question. If we went into playoffs right now, or let's say that you had to play to get into playoffs, who would not make the cut?
Rocket.
Over Schalke right now.
Yeah. I think Rocket will make it.
I'm concerned about all the teams sitting there. From
I'll be honest,
Misfits
okay,
to Splice
here's
to
the thing,
Schalke.
here's the thing.
Like,
Rocket.
Misfits must be able to pick it up. They have so
But
much
where are they at?
experience.
Where are they at currently? Let's say that. Are Misfits right now, coming into this week, better than 7th place in terms of the league?
I don't think
As for
so.
a power ranking, I don't think they should be in playoffs. But for playoffs, they're going to be there.
Yeah, for playoffs, they're going to be there. Okay, so that rhetorical question didn't work in this case. But
I mean, it
Right
is
now.
a power ranking, so you might
is-
as well.
Yeah,
put,
yeah.
On my list, it will be 7th right now.
To me, it's between Misfits, Rocket.
literally, this is the hardest part of the power rank, because top 3 is still easy, because if we believe at all in Vitality, Fnatic and G2 are clearly playing well. But like,
I think Splice might be better than Vitality, actually. Right now.
no way, dude. No way. no way.
Splice's early game is still a big problem.
They have huge. They've
Actually, they play good against us, but actually, I don't know. So we were getting destroyed, but like, I don't know if you were watching it on the stream, but Kasing was really smurfing. He hit 2 max range tornadoes predicted, you know, like I stand in the middle, he shoots a tornado, I walk up, it hits me, I walk down, it hits me. You know, he did this twice, and I had to base, and I was like 10 or 15 CS down, and then they don't base. They just stay there, let me push in the wave, stay again, my support bases, comes back, they're still here, they haven't based yet, I have tier, my support has upgraded Targon, and then they die. But if they just play like a normal team and base, and use their bot lane advantage, they would have won that early game.
I like the bot lane a lot on Spice, but I think mid, top, jungle in the early game, there's zero synergy at the moment, and they don't have any of the soul laners they can play around, other than Odamna on a carry if he picks one, which he doesn't do very often. So that's my problem with Spice's early game. I actually think Kobe and Kasing are doing pretty well. I think especially Kobe in the late game is really, really good. And Kasing plays these champions that are so good at allowing Kobe to be really aggressive, like Zillion and Janna. But
I mean,
we had Lulu in that game, right?
No, I was playing Janna, I guess.
Oh, that was the other game where they picked it. There was a Lulu, yeah. Okay, so number 7
place. This is hard. It's hard, I know, because it's easy to distract you. Because
I'll put Misfits.
It's so contested.
I'd go Rocket personally.
I actually don't know. I think I'd say... Shit, I'd say Misfits.
2 versus 1 then.
Yeah,
Misfits
it's hard, but I think... I don't know, Misfits have way more problems than I expect them to, and Rocket are already...
To me, then it goes Misfits, Rocket, Schalke, Splice. If I had to propose my list going upwards.
You think Rocket is worse than Schalke?
I think Rocket, No, actually, that's fair. It's unfair for me to
Schalke,
put Rocket.
Splice, right?
Yeah, I think Rocket... With Rocket, I'm so scared every week of how they play, because the one week everything falls apart for them. They try and play 1-3-1, they execute like half of it, and then the other half is just a horrible mess. Blank doesn't get ahead, or they overextend in a side lane, or they group randomly for a team fight despite playing 1-3-1, and then they lose the fight, and I'm just like, what's going on? But then the next week they're like, oh, okay, let's try full late game team fight again. And then they actually play the late game team fight really well. Like Hikyu ends up doing like a ton of extra damage, and Memento I think is really good. The
Astral game doesn't count though. You can't put his percentages on Astral. Right?
Fine. But I think both Rocket and Schalke are very inconsistent in what they're doing, which is why they're kind of bouncing around. But I think it's fair to put Schalke under them, also based on what we saw last week where they got a pretty bad 0-2, despite having some really good things. Like, I hate Schalke because I love the way they're trying to play the game. I think I love the fact that they don't take big gambles, 50-50s. They try and actually kind of
they play properly.
Yeah, they try and play the game
just
properly.
Upset is trying to run out of his cage, you know.
But why? Upset,
He's trying to get those Reddit clips, but it's not.
When he died to you guys in that mid lane where he gets hit by like every skill shot in a row.
I mean, he's really just trying to get a Reddit clip, I think. Like, he's really walking up and trying to, out to range me. Like, hit me once and I don't hit him back, But then I EQ and put him to half.
Yeah, and then you got a big rocket, and then you got
I think it's hard because on one hand
But the play he makes has no purpose, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
There's no reward.
Yeah, he doesn't think twice, He just sees, I can auto this guy, so I'm going to auto this guy. But he doesn't think, what would auto him do? Like, it doesn't do anything to auto me there. I have lifesteal.
It's an alpha move.
I mean, I think maybe...
Exactly, yeah.
He's trying to
just
get
shows he's above you.
The Reddit stuff.
So, but that's why I actually think Schalke is the better team. But based on last week...
Yeah, but this is current power rankings, right? Not potential for growth.
But because of what you mentioned earlier is why I don't think Rocket will make it. They're just, they don't have this thing about them that makes you feel like they're going to be good in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I think Schalke does, because they actually have...
They don't have systems.
Idea of what they want to do in the game. Just, Upset is running a bit wild sometimes. But it's not like a hard fix, He just doesn't have to int it, and then they won. Like,
yeah, I mean, if they put Nukeduck on a carry and say, Nukeduck, we focus around you, Upset, you...
But Nukeduck hasn't been that great either, has he?
I think last week was bad for him. I think the week before he was really good.
Hard fed caps.
That was his last week was really not good. No one knows what happened in mid lane other than Caps said he mind controlled him into inting 2 kills to him. And we can't prove that wrong.
One kill is like an arguable misplay. The second kill, he literally walked into a creep wave at 150 health and with a Corki with every ability.
Thought he could E out.
Yes. Which actually happened twice. It's the same thing he did twice.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Sometimes it's confusing. Guy has to go backwards before he goes forwards. It's tough.
So it feels like easy fixes,
Yeah, that one he won't do again.
There's not a fix. It's just... Soon teams are going to be better than them, and that's just how it is.
Now we have a top 4, and this is fun because you're here, and Fnatic is in the top 4. So...
I mean, we are 1.
Thank you, spoiler.
I don't know. I think I got G2 number 1.
Splice, Vitality, G2, Fnatic are the remaining ones.
So, Vitality. I'm just going to ask this question. If Vitality plays Rocket based on what we just saw, Does Rocket beat Vitality?
I mean, based on what we just saw, yes.
I think
but
that's going to be a close game, yeah. And that's why I would
Because-
put Vitality fourth.
Yeah,
Because I don't
because-
think Splice versus Rocket would be a close game. I think Splice would beat them.
But so are you basing the Splice top 3 a lot on scrims? Or
I can't say.
yeah, because on stage with Splice,
They're AFK.
They
yeah,
are AFK in the
except for the Giants game where because Giants are a 10th place team.
I'm just not that great at making a power ranking because I'm just thinking
I actually
about
think
so
you're
much
doing.
stuff.
I think
it's
you're doing
hard,
a very
it's hard,
good
it's hard.
job. This
That you
makes
guys
it
don't
interesting.
think
Here's the
about.
thing is that I think we have, to Splice's credit, because I was really, really down on Splice when they were only playing around Kabe, and every single game was hard lose early game into stall for late game. But they did versus H2K and versus Giants show that they can play 1-3-1, that they can put Cabo on a decent top laner and snowball him. Yes, Giants are now our 10th place team. Yes, the other team was H2K before Shook came. But I like that they're trying shit now. I think that they have shown progression, which was my biggest complaint about the team before.
But as much as I agree with Vitality currently being on a downtrend, based on what we have on stage across 5 weeks,
They're better than Splice.
they are better than Splice. Now, last week, Splice went 1-on-1. They stomped Giants in that game, and then they played against you guys, obviously.
I actually feel like this talk about Schalke made me think they're better than they are.
But I'm actually... So the talk about Schalke
it's
actually
hard.
made me... I actually want to swap Schalke and Misfits. I want to put Schalke number 7 right now. But
No, we're not going back,
All right,
man. We're
fine,
taking too
fine,
long to make a
fine,
power ranking.
fine,
The people
fine.
need to know.
Yeah.
Number
Alright,
4.
I propose Splice for number 4.
I propose with Vitality.
He says Vitality. Drakos, you get to decide.
I'm constantly the tiebreaker. I'm gonna say Splice. They haven't proven enough to me. If they pull out something other than scale with Copy against a top team, because they still haven't really beaten a top team. They've
But
beaten middle of the pack. They've beaten bottom of the pack.
Because scaling is still a fine way to play the game. In many
It
ways,
is
it's
the
the
way to
correct
play the
play
game.
the game. So
The reason why the
no,
games
no.
are faster now is because teams are better. It's not because late game is worse.
Yeah. And I agree. And that's fine. They can play late game if they want to. But they can't hard lose every early game. That's not playing for late game. That's just being bad.
Yeah.
Like, you can't give up 3 towers with Caitlyn and go, okay, guys, it's fine, we're scaling. Like, that's not an argument to me.
Yeah.
it has gotten better. I will give them that credit. I
guess I just feel like the last time we played them, they should have beaten us early. But they made like a
That's one of the
poor
problems, right?
decision
Yeah.
on their bot lane. Like,
I mean,
Okay.
the jungler's not active enough. Their
Splice
mid laner
number 4.
struggles.
You broke the tiebreaker.
I did,
Drakos.
Splice, dude.
Vitality definitely number 3
They
then.
keep
Yeah.
going up by
Not in the discussion for number 1 and 2.
This is, yep. And I think
and here we go.
in the lieu of saving time, leave Vitality as they are. We'll hit them harder next week. G2 versus Fnatic, boys. Let's go.
I actually
Let's
want to
talk
hear
about
what you
it.
think about G2 and why they're better than us. Because
So what I
yeah.
absolutely love about G2 right now is one, I think they have the 2 best performing, or they have 2 of the absolute best performing soul laners in Perks and Wonder. I think Jankos has developed so much as a player that he's actually putting a ton of focus on vision now as a jungler, on playing around the correct lane. It's not about early game at all for him, and it's made him a better all-around player without the same highs he used to have when he was like 10-0 on Lee Sin, but just way more consistent, way more stable. So when I watch G2 play, I already now, 6 weeks into it, see a team who plays the game properly. They don't take big chances. They really understand what the enemy team needs to do to win. I especially saw that against Vitality when they're like, okay, we know Vitality's win condition is they have to like win top and win bot lane
Snowball,
in the
yeah.
laning phase. Galio, never make an aggressive play.
yeah,
Literally
play
just
safe.
play safe. Constantly, Perks would like move from his lane into a side lane brush. When he knew, okay, there's a chance to make a play bot side, he would go into the brush. They would back away. He would just go back to mid. And these kind of plays where like they're clearly reading what the enemy team needs to do to win, and they just shut it down so hard early game without even doing anything huge. Makes them so clean in how they play the game, and I think their late game team fighting has gotten a lot better. So I'm a huge fan of what G2 is doing. Now, I think the weakness will be the bot lane, and that is a problem for them,
I agree.
where I can see them struggle a bit when it comes to playing at the absolute highest level. Because while Jan and Wadid had a better week than they've had in the past, they're not the stars right now. And Yanan is not adding the same value I think some of the best performing AD carries are right now. Maybe it's because he doesn't have to, because he has Wonder on GP and he has perks on like whatever Zoe carry he can get. But I think G2 are super well rounded. I love how the top half is playing. And I think they're going to beat Fnatic
All
this
right.
week.
I like the monologue, and I appreciate the monologue. But now it is your turn, Rekkles. Tell me about
Why is Fnatic the
why is
greatest team in
Fnatic
Europe?
the greatest team?
Can I give my opinion on your
You give, yeah,
statement
that's good
first?
too.
So I agree. I think Jankos is smurfing every game, and Perks as well. I think those two are just really, really good. Like both of them together and apart. Like they're just really good players, and they do almost everything right. Like I barely see any mistakes from either
It's
one
sexy
of them.
to watch, isn't
Yes,
it?
they are. They are really, really good. As for Wunder, what are you basing your statement on? Like actually watching his play or the stats?
So I would
Because
have
I
to
know you
admit,
guys are really focused on the stats and.
I
don't care about
I never
those.
try to jump too much into the stats because I always want the context around it. So I'm trying to mix it on both things. Personally, I think the guy used to have a bad habit of overextending in lane.
Yes,
and people could,
I did kill him a lot of times last
Yeah,
summer.
and you could like gank and kill him. I don't see that happening right now. It might be because teams are not always playing around top side, especially if he's playing GP. You just kind of leave him on an island, even though technically you can actually go up and punish him if you're playing against him. But I don't see him dying in the early game. I always see him up, in the laning phase in terms of CS. I see him teamfight really well, which also was a bit of a problem for him in the past. So I just see a lot of improvement from Wunder. He seems to be a player who's playing with less pressure because he's not the main carry, which he was on Splice.
Yep.
He's dropped the whole I need to constantly be in the face of the enemy tower or enemy player under his turret so you can just gank him a million times. And I think it's just made him a much better overall player. And I think the current meta and the fact he's playing tanks plus GP actually has benefited him a lot. And he doesn't need to be a big carry because he has perks.
Yeah, it is a Wunder meta when you think about it. He's really good at these.
It's a new Wonder meta because he used to be just
I mean, he was
Fiora and
always a
whatever.
bruiser player,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Kled and all these
Kled,
champions.
Renekton, Rumble.
Yeah, all these champions were
Mar.
his champions.
Yeah.
He was really, really good at these.
What do you think about Wonder?
I think he's really overrated.
Ooh,
And,
should have been your overhyped player then.
Well, I wanted to pick an AD.
Okay.
Since I'm an AD, but I thought, like, whenever someone was talking about, like, MVP candidates, not you, but I saw on the broadcast, for example, they were saying that this guy is, like, really, really good. Maybe the number one candidate for
Oh,
MVP.
you saw the stats one meta game.
Yeah.
That was purely based
And I
on
know-
stats, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like everyone's saying this guy is the best. There's no, no debate about it. And I don't want to put Soaz in there either because I know Soaz ins like 50% of the games. But I think Wunder doesn't do that much for the team. Like when I watch the games, I can see he has a CS lead. I can see he's pushing his lane. But that's it. I don't
That's why
see
he plays GP.
the next
he gets to
stuff.
alt other
Okay.
lanes.
I don't see him making any plays. I don't see him moving from his lane. He's just playing top lane. And that's why I don't consider him a threat when you go up against G2. I'm really scared of Jankos personally. And I'm really scared of Perks because I know these people do the right things to win the game. But I don't feel like I have this from Wunder. I don't feel like I have this from Yarnan. Maybe Vadid is 50-50. I think he's really
a different
good
meta
support.
for Vadid maybe.
Yeah, but I think he's really good support though. I think he does like a lot of mechanical things really well.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes like hard to play against him when it's on something like Alistar because he actually does the combos right. He doesn't just walk up and WQ you and then hope that you're, incapable of pressing your stuff. But he actually does like Q flashes or flanks you and does many of the things right. So I guess those three would be I'm scared of rather than Wunder and Yarnan. But
And that's enough for you to
That's-
say Fnatic.
yeah, I think so because I know Soaz is gonna do just fine top and he's gonna be really like involved in winning the game, probably more than Wunder, and maybe he will fall behind in CS. Sure, maybe after the game people will say Wunder was the better top because he had 20 CS lead. But I know that Soaz will contribute towards winning the game. I know Cavs will be just fine mid. I know we're gonna have a really good early game plan, so Broxah doesn't fall behind from Jankos and his crazy invades that he usually pulls off. I also know that we're more than fine bot, and we're most likely gonna win our lane unless they get Tristana for free, which has happened almost every game for a good while now. I don't know actually how it's possible, but it looks like when you watch G2 draft, everyone's like, "Oh my god, we can't play against 4 champions of Perks, and they have ban 3 or pick 1," or they're like, "Oh my god, Jankos is so good, what do we do?" And then they just ban like 2 junglers, pick 1, hope that it doesn't pick ban 2 more, and then he carries anyways. But I think the proper approach is pushing their, not bad members, but weaker members.
Don't reveal too much ahead of the game.
No, it's fine. It's an obvious thing. You don't give a team Tristana. Like, that's just not a Rekkles thing anymore. It's a generic thing now. You just don't give their worst members like free champions like GP and Tristana. Like, even if you are not the carry for a team, playing these champions is really simple. Like, anyone can play Tristana if you're a decent AD carry. You can just play this champion and carry the game. Like, it's really not that hard.
We have to make a decision here, and
Thank you.
we're rounding out.
We're never gonna agree.
We're never going to 100%. You're not convinced.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be a good game. Like, it's gonna be an even game.
It's gonna be a damn.
It's not gonna be
game, man.
one-sided by any means. But I do believe that we are better as a full team, as a 5-man. They might be winning 1v1s here and there, but I think when it really comes down to it, 40 minutes into the game, we're playing a team fight, we're gonna win.
Mind-blowing change in Fnatic versus G2, that it might be Fnatic's teamwork compared to G2's individual ability, which
I
was
mean, we
actually
do have the
kinda
secret agents in Young Bucks, so...
turned
as
around
hell,
last
dude.
time. So the thing for me is, and this is boring, but both teams to me are tied. Like, I cannot reasonably say one team gets slightly above the other one.
We
in
have
my
Young
mind.
Bucks, we are first.
Drakos, you do the tiebreaker.
Damn it, every time.
I mean, if the teams are the same, then you should compare the coaches, right? Young Buck versus Grabs, or Dylan Young Buck versus
All
Grabs.
right,
It's 2-1.
That's true.
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna say Fnatic.
Okay, we put Fnatic
I'm
first
gonna
then.
say Fnatic.
When we have this discussion next week and Rekkles is not here and G2 beats Fnatic,
I'm gonna pay for
the
my
first
sins.
thing we do is we lock G2
You
first place.
nail me to the cross, dude. I
The
will
first
be. I
thing
will
we do
be
is we
ready.
lock them first.
And what if we win?
And if
do
you
that?
win, then that's where we have these
Then you have
bets,
to
man.
publicly apologize.
I will definitely publicly apologize.
Hold on, wait.
Okay.
We're gonna predict, and you
Okay.
guys will probably predict the G2 Fnatic match, believe it or not, and then you can lay down some stakes. Save it for the quick shots. Now it is time for our final segment of the day. It is Quick Shots, our quick fire prediction segment. I'm going to say some matchups. I'm going to say go. You're going to tell me who's going to win. We're going to see who's right in the end. As an update, weeks 2 through 4, it was tied. Deficio 17, Guess 17. Now, unfortunately for the guests, EUphoria has been our worst guest ever. He got 3 out of 10 in the predictions, with Deficio getting 7 out of 10. So now coming into week 5, Rekkles can save the guests, can stop Deficio from being embarrassed for the rest of his professional career, but it's going to take some work because he's digging out of a 4 prediction deficit at this point.
And it's fine if you want to give up already. Because
go
I'm
10-10.
getting
No
at
biggie.
minimum 7 out of 10 each week.
Didn't you get 5 out of 10 on the first week?
Yeah, but that was not like that. We can predict week 1 and be a 1, you know, like that. Who cares? They did
Okay.
a dart thing in NA, and that was more correct.
The dart was, more accurate. All right, so we're going to get into it.
And we have to get the goal first, and then we say who wins.
so I'm going to say matchup, go, and then you tell me who wins.
No explanation.
just a word.
Say the
Just a
team.
word. Just
say
same
the
time?
team. Yeah.
Same. Yeah, I'll figure it out if I can do it. All right.
All right.
So first up, Vitality versus Giants. Go.
Vitality.
Vitality.
That was easy.
All right. Unicorns of Love versus Splice.
Splice.
All right. I mean, you guys are both going to get the same amount right if you never do anything different. Just saying. Rocket versus G2.
G2.
Yeah.
See, here I could have gone Rocket, because they always beat G2.
You can't go 5 minutes about G2 and then say...
I know.
Second, but
I
then
have to
they'll
go
lose to
G2.
Rocket.
It's not gonna work.
All right, one-sided game so far.
Fnatic versus H2K. Go.
Fnatic.
Fnatic, yeah.
I'm not going to go for bold prediction points there, huh, Martin? Or Deficio, damn it. Schalke versus Misfits. Go.
Ooh, I'm going Misfits.
Schalke.
Oh, there it is.
There's the first one.
All right. Giants versus H2K. Go.
H2K.
H2K.
All right.
Actually,
Rocket versus Unicorns of Love. Go.
Unicorns of Love.
Rocket.
I'd also like to say I'm glad that we put H2K above Giants and you predicted that, because the first time we did this, we put someone in like 3rd.
Yeah, we picked it
And
against
then
them.
they picked against them and it didn't match the power rankings at all. Next up is Misfits Vitality.
Misfits.
Vitality.
I'm predicting a 0-2 week again for Vitality.
Oh. Schalke versus Splice. Go.
Splice.
Splice.
All right. Final one, G2 versus Fnatic.
Fnatic.
G2,
There
baby!
it is. All right, now we can talk stakes. You guys said in the previous segment that it's time to lay it down.
All right,
Rekkles,
so
you said you had an idea.
each time when someone was playing Cannon before, you would always tweet out about it and say that I was the only one that was allowed to play Cannon. So my suggestion is, if we beat G2, you tweet, Rekkles is the only guy that is allowed to play AD carry, and everyone else is only allowed to play marksman.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
And
That's
then
a
you
good
can give me
tweet.
something spicy as well. And I'll
That's
make
good
sure to
tweet.
get it done.
I love it.
What do we got the other way around?
What do we
If I
got?
get spranked.
Fishy, what do you got?
That's the tough one. It could be something like Rekkles tweeting he will never ever disagree with me again on who is the best team in Europe. That could be one, but it's not spicy.
I can call you Martin Morning for the rest of your life if you want. Have you ever seen that show?
No,
Never?
I don't think so. Is it a Swedish one?
I actually don't know if it's a Swedish one. I just grew up watching it in the morning.
Wait, can
Martin
you
Morning.
Can
Yeah.
you Google it here?
Yeah,
Just
Google
real
it.
quick.
This is
Martin Morning, great sound.
Martin.
He's like a secret
go, go.
agent or something.
Interesting.
I don't know. I don't think enough people will understand what that is.
All right, come on. We need something back here.
we need
Maybe it is
spicy.
Swedish, actually.
What am I getting? What am I getting when G2 wins?
Oh, it's a cartoon.
It's a French.
What do you want? What do you like? What is like something that only Rekkles can give you?
I mean, let's not get that dirty. Let's
No.
Well, you did say I was big like 2 hours ago.
Drake has started it. I followed along.
I mean, it's getting boring with the greatest analyst of all time.
Yeah, it is because
we gotta
I get
mix it
that
up.
every week.
We can do. Do we want to do
What about
Sweden
that
versus
Deficio
Denmark?
mask the viewers had?
Yes.
Yes. So did you see this?
I did not see.
So we had a bunch of awesome Danish fans who came down last week with a bus to watch the show.
Those were Deficio masks. Because I saw they were wearing some sort of mask, but I did not know what it was.
Apparently they got Deficio masks, which now I know I sound like a guy with giant ego, but that was pretty cool. Now, I don't think you can play with one on stage.
No,
that
absolutely
wouldn't
not.
work. But I would need a selfie from
With
you
this, yeah.
with that mask on, and I want to see the tattoos and everything.
Okay.
And I want that mask on.
Sure.
And
do, you
then-
have, do you have it at hand?
I have one in the
have
studio.
one in the studio.
I have one in the
I
studio.
can just bring it back after we
Yeah. You get to
potentially lose.
You know
them.
what? You actually get to keep the mask as well.
Oh
It's a
my
souvenir.
God, this is great.
Good. I want that selfie.
Actually, okay, yeah, perfect.
Good.
Sweet.
All right. So to
Yeah.
remind, the stakes are: if Fnatic win, God damn it, both being named Martin is totally screwing me up. Deficio has to say only Rekkles can play AD carry. Everyone else has to play marksman.
Everyone else plays marksman.
Everyone else
or
plays
whatever.
marksman.
You get to
Yeah.
write.
Yeah,
the
you
tweet
can write
for
it. You can write it for him.
I mean, that sounds great.
Yeah, something along
You
those
get the
lines.
point.
And then if G2 win, aka Deficio wins, then Rekkles has to wear the Deficio mask, the super creepy Deficio masks that a bunch of fans from Denmark brought, and take a selfie with the tattoos out, like fist
Everything.
together, quintessential Rekkles pose.
And then should he
post
tweet
it.
something? Should it be a little text of like, "I am Deficio, we all Deficio," or something like
We
that?
are all Deficio.
We are all
That's just
Deficio.
weird. Just make it weird.
Or
as hell.
I joined the Deficio fan club.
Oh, I
That's
joined the
it.
Deficio
That's
fan
it.
club right there.
All right, got it.
All right, perfect.
All right, that is it.
Sweet.
That is the episode for the week. Look forward to the stakes. Look forward to Fnatic G2. It is our match of the week. It is hype. It is a battle for the top of the table. That match is
It's
on.
actually the Clash of Kings now.
Actually,
not
the
like
Clash of-
last
it was
time
not-
when you guys
not
were
like
losing
last
and
time.
everything.
So watch EU LCS. It's on Friday. This is coming out on Wednesday, so you'll have some time to get ready. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and until next time.